fight fans, welcome back to the channel. This is the 203 Fight Network. Mark G here, and it's Thursday, May 18th, 2017, and this is your Tough 25 Redemption Episode 5 review. A brutal business. Dhiego Lima versus Hayder Hassan. Two finalists from two different seasons. Fighting two. They are also teammates. Two American Top Team fighters. Can you believe it? America Top Team, which was well represented in the UFC we just had this past Saturday. UFC 212, Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title, knocking out Junior Dos Santos, who is an ATT member. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this fantastic show. It was a pretty good show again tonight, and we're going to go over from everything there from top to bottom. Before I get started, I do want to apologize for not having this out yesterday, or at least earlier this morning or last night, whichever. I had some dental surgery and some other things going on, and I just was still a little too tired to do the review. I did watch the show, and I actually even did watch the Tough Talk, but like I said, I'm sorry that I didn't get it out. Hopefully that won't affect the amount of views. Maybe I'll get more, maybe I'll get less. I don't know. I don't think I can get any more or less. But, and I do want to make a little side note to all you people out there. Oh, Mark, why are you talking about Misha Tate? Misha Tate wasn't hitting on Johnny Nunez. And yeah, that's the way I saw it. I know they're teammates. Oh, they're teammates. That's why they're... Yeah. Rubbing his back and Johnny, what are you doing, Johnny? Yeah, I remember that. I seen it. Been around the block a few times. There's definitely something going on with them. Maybe Brian Caraway should take notice if they're still together. If not, maybe they're in an open relationship. I don't care. That's not really what I'm even here to talk about. I am going to get a objective perspective out this weekend. Most likely Friday. I would have had it done tonight. I was going to shoot it actually before I shot this and then release it, tomorrow morning. But I got a little tied up with some things, and so a couple things happening, and some people not coming through like they were supposed to. For some things that had me waiting. So, I just end up being stuck, and now I'm stuck here, just doing this one review, but that's fine. Really looking forward to that, getting this one out, and I got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about, tomorrow, we're going to talk about Conor McGregor signing his deal to fight Floyd Mayweather. They're just waiting on Floyd now. We're also going to talk about TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw is issuing out a challenge to Demetrius Johnson, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, hands down. TJ wants to be the one to stop the streak. He thinks that's going to be a pretty important thing, and he wants to put a halt to DJ's reign. And he doesn't really even say he's planning on sticking in the division. He just wants to do that and come back up because he's looking to fight in July. So that's the third thing we will talk about tomorrow, and I'm going to dabble a little bit of this after this. Cody Garbrandt sending out cryptic tweets about his back, or he might be missing the fight. Really disappointed if that's the case. Obviously he's had a long time to prepare for this matchup, and having these back problems, I guess, popping up. I know back problems are tough. I've had a few of myself. Face is still kind of hurting from the tooth pull, but I still got a bunch of them left. Don't worry, I don't live in a trailer park. Anyway, No offense if you live in a trail, that's great. I mean, I kind of sometimes wish I did because I'm really not a fan of my condo here. I'm a fan of my condo, not really a fan of too many of my neighbors. I have some good neighbors, don't get me wrong, really good neighbors, but I also have some really bad neighbors, especially right there. That's why I'm banging on that wall. Put some soundproofing up because I just don't really want them to know what the hell I'm doing. So, they can go, as my grandmother would say, they can go pound sand. God rest her soul. She was great. She would tell you where to go. Now I know where I get it from. Anyway, TJ, like I said, wants to fight. TJ wants to fight DJ. We got something going on there. But I'm really kind of, I hope that the fight with Cody doesn't fall through. The UFC hasn't done anything of announcing that yet. They've been really playing their hands close to the chest and close to the vest, whatever you want to say. So I don't think it's definitely not over yet. Just like the GSP Michael Bisping. If you're wondering, I cut my fingers up at work on some laminate. I have a rough job. That job, what are you going to do? But, like I said, just like it's funny, we got odds for the Yoel Romero versus Michael Bisping, but Michael Bisping on his podcast, I think he has two podcasts, but one of his podcasts, Believe You Me, I would plug where you can go listen to it, but I'm not even sure. I just heard little quips, on YouTube. And, he hasn't signed any bout agreement. He hasn't signed anything. He hasn't signed anything to fight GSP. But he did say that they were under, an agreement to fight GSP. He hasn't heard from the UFC or from Dana White on the fight with GSP being canceled. He also said that, his knee's still a little banged up. He hasn't been able to train like he would want to, or train very hard, or at least do a lot of, I think, cardio, he was saying, or, he hasn't been able to do too much. So the GSP coming out and wanting to fight in the fall, October-ish, maybe even November, talking about New York, which actually, would make, a lot of sense for George. He trains, is trained a lot in New York, and George has a big following everywhere. It doesn't really, I don't think it matters where either one of these guys fight. This fight, I think this is going to be a big fight, and I was really kind of looking forward to this fight once they announced it. To be perfectly honest, there's a lot of people out there that are saying the fans don't want this fight. I kind of disagree. I think there's definitely a good amount of fans that want this fight. I got a buddy of mine who, me and him, we went through a lot of UFCs. He doesn't really watch as much as he used to. Really doesn't pay as much attention as what, we used to. He has his reasons, work, whatever it is, Everybody's got, stuff going on. But when he heard about this fight, man, he called me, and he's like, holy shit, oh my God, we got to go to this fight, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, man, that, that's definitely a cool fight to probably go to. I would love to go see it. It's probably not happening until the fall. And I knew that. This was when they first announced it. I knew right there. That's what George St. Pierre was saying. If you got a fighter that's basically, he was pretty adamant about when he was going to be ready to fight Michael Bisping, being that he wanted to put on some weight. So I don't see him, with this whole Dana White wanting to cancel the fight thing. I don't see George moving down. He was, I believe he was offered a fight with Woodley to begin with, but he took the Bisping fight. He wanted to move up, wanted to try, a little bit of a different endeavor, I guess you can say, in a weight class. And who's to say he wouldn't, try to move back down at some point? I didn't really see George staying at 185, maybe for a couple fights. I don't know. Maybe with some of these new weight cutting measures that might be going through, quite possibly you see him stay, and you might see some of these guys move up. The middleweight division is pretty interesting, and I'll talk about that real quick here before I get into episode 5 of Brutal Business. There's there's a lot of different things going on in that middleweight division. Everybody wants to call Yoel Romero number one contender, and technically he is. I mean, he is the number one contender. But, he did test positive for a banned substance. He did, go through the appeals process. Excuse me, lack of oxygen to the brain. Can you believe that? Anyway, he went through the appeals process, with his manager, Melky Kawa, or Melky's brother. I'm not sure which one actually manages Yoel. It doesn't really matter. But he did get a reduced suspension, and obviously he's ready to come back from that, and he has been ready. I don't like some of the antics he's pulled, in the ring in his last few fights. Actually, I thought, and I'm still talking about, that fight with Tim Kennedy. What was that, like 3 years ago now? I mean, he sat on a stool, man. Like that. That was like in this past weekend with Frankie Edgar and Yair, when the doctor came in to look at Yair, and then it went past that minute. Frankie didn't know that, the ref had called the fight, kind of ahead of time. So Frankie's walking back and forth. It's been a minute. It's over. And he was 100% right, man. And that is what Tim Kennedy should have did. Tim Kennedy should be like, no, he's not off his stool. I won the fight. But, that's all in the past now. Yoel has just had to me, he's done some dirty tactics in his fights, and then he comes out and he preaches God, and he preaches this, and he preaches that. He's a tough guy. He's a good fighter. Obviously, I mean, there's not much I can say about the victory that he had against Weidman. Maybe he did something in that fight. I don't know. He seems to be doing a lot of different things in a lot of these fights. So, but he, I guess, technically is the number one contender. If you want to go that route, he's the number one contender. He deserves a title shot. The number one contender doesn't always get a title shot, especially here in the UFC. And if you want to think you're going to go by boxing and get that, you don't get it that way either. So, people are going by, and plus, these rankings are BS. I could put out rankings that are way, way more, way better than what you would see in the UFC. Like right now, no offense to Luke Rockhold. I know he is the former champ, okay? He beat Chris Weidman fair and square. But he got knocked out in June of last year, and he has not fought since then. And if you go by my rules on how I do a top 10 in a division, if you're inactive for a year, how are you in the top 10 when you have guys that are active? You're not fighting. If you have not fought within a year, you don't deserve to be into that mix. I don't care where you were and what belt you might have held before that. That's just how it is. Okay, you got some injuries, that's fine. Now, that's not to say that you don't deserve a guy in that top 10 when you come back if you happen to leave it. And that's not to say if you beat the number 7 guy or the number 6 guy, say if you fight in August or September, which will be about 15 months since your last fight, Mr. Luke Rockhold. You've done more modeling gigs in this past year than you have fights. You've also said that you don't really care about fighting at this point. You're worried about building your house. Then you go on to Twitter and you tell your boss to shut his mouth, or I'm not going to exact quote it. You're just setting yourself up for some epic failure, man. I know you're young. You can go fight for Coker if you play out your UFC contract, but the UFC can also put you on the shelf for a very long time. And then it's not even going to matter when your next fight is because you're going to be so rusty. You'll go in against a Robert Whittaker, and he's going to clean your clock out. So, just a little piece of advice to you, Mr. Luke Rockhold. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. My boss breaks my balls every day. Every day. Okay? You take it and you go what it is. You know why? Because he pays me. He writes the check. Okay? And until I am ready to leave that place and go somewhere else, that's when you will get, hey, shut your mouth. Whatever. But until then, I don't think that was a good idea, man. And it just, you want to come off as arrogant against your fans. You want to come off as arrogant against reporters and whatnot and other fighters, which he obviously does. But don't. I wouldn't do that to your boss. That's just plain stupid. But once again, I digress. I would love to see Luke Rockhold fight Whitaker. I think that'd be a good fight actually for Whitaker. I think if he would sign to fight Whitaker, that would end Luke Rockhold's running his mouth pretty quick. I definitely would like Whitaker in that fight. They're both they're two stand-up guys. I don't see going to the ground very often, and what he just did to Jacare, and I'm sure we'll find out later that Jacare was hurt or he had an infection in his I'm not even gonna go there. Like I said, I try to keep it clean, but I get a little irritated sometimes with things, so I don't want to go there. Let's talk about this review, episode 5. Team Dillashaw, 4-0 so far against Team Garbrandt, Team Alpha Male, Team Faber, whatever you want to call him. Cody's just seems like he's just the head of the team in a way. He's doing a lot of coaching. I believe, and from what I've seen and the way they're editing this, they're really making TJ look really good. And he's doing a great job. I really got to hand it to TJ. He's 4-0, coming off the Kraus victory. Kraus submitting Johnny Nunez in the first round, rear naked choke, brings him to 4-0. They played off in the last episode, this next fight. Hayder. If I'm saying your name wrong, man, I'm sorry. You seem like a respectful guy. I don't want to get your name wrong. But, he said a lot of things, and I think he was just kind of running his mouth a little bit to his coaches, saying that he beats Dhiego in every aspect of the game. So this starts out, and the team starts out, and basically we see Hayder and Dhiego talking in the kitchen, and Hayder's kind of explaining his kind of what happened. This is after the fight pick. Excuse me. Dhiego was really really cool about it, and it was like, he knew, and he said he kind of had a feeling. I guess somebody might have said something to him that might come up, and he had a feeling, especially after the Kraus won. He had a feeling that they were going to try to do some matching up of maybe teammates, or he kind of said he kind of saw it coming. So we we move on to the next segment, and I think in the next segment it's showing TJ's training Dhiego. And Diego's throwing some stiff kicks, and he's doing pretty well. And TJ's throwing in the confidence and throwing in and really boosting him up. And it's funny because then he basically said his only problem is he feels that he lacks confidence. And it's the same thing that Dana White kind of said a little bit later on in the show. But they're training in there, and Dhiego was knocked out in his last fight, which was in I believe it was in Legacy. The kid he lost to was knocked out a couple years earlier by Hassan. Jason Jackson, I believe his name is. Don't be surprised if you see Jason Jackson in the UFC pretty soon, considering he's on like a 4 or 5 fight winning streak. He's been fighting in. He hasn't been fighting in any of the big promotions, but the big, the Titans, the Legacies and the whatnot, and so don't be surprised if you see him back in, plus he has that victory over Dhiego, and so don't be surprised if he's back, if you see him sign to UFC soon and maybe on a Fight Pass prelim card. But, so they're trying to build up Diego's comment, man, and Diego's a really good fighter, and he's pretty much good everywhere. I'm just a little suspect, and I was a little suspect of him going in. A lot of people had him picking him pretty high, but I was kind of suspect with him, considering he was knocked out in his last fight. He was also knocked out by Eddie Gordon in the finale, and he was finished twice. In his 2 UFC. He did have a UFC win though, but he was finished twice. I believe submitted actually, or that was maybe knocked out. I know Hayder was submitted like twice in the UFC as well. So, Next segment comes in, and Cody, it goes to Team Cody Garbrandt, and he's got the whole team around. And he brought in, nasal cleansing doctor, cranial facial release, Dr. John Petrick of the Las Vegas Pain Relief Center, which he is the CEO. Now, what they do is they take a balloon and they have it on a little blood pressure bubble, and they stuff that in your nose, and then they, for like a millisecond, he said, and it expands it up, and I guess it's supposed to clear everything out and get oxygen through everywhere, make you, a little better, a little worse, look pretty painful, actually, if you ask me. And a couple guys seemed like they didn't really want to do it, such as Eddie Gordon, seemed a little scared, but I believe everybody did it and went through. Probably something I could use. I know I'm a little, nasally and whatnot, but, I'm done putting things up my nose. So, plus I don't really have the money to do that anyway, and I don't live in Vegas. I live in the 203, not the 702. So, it looked like it was a pretty crazy thing, but this is something that I've seen before with Cody. I believe it was on one of, either on the countdown when he was fighting Dominic back in October, or October, November, whenever the hell that, December, whenever that was. So he did have that on a countdown. So that's when he brought that guy on, and it kind of looked, brought back a little memory. So, but it was definitely fun to watch those guys, and all that. And if you get a chance, if you didn't see it, check it out. You can find it on demand or depending on your cable company, FS1. Tough 25 for redemption. Anyway, moving on to the next segment, we have Hayder. Hayder, snap back to Hayder, and he's talking about his father being from Iraq and being a doctor, came to this country, was accepted to Johns Hopkins Medical, so they let him in, and he had started a life here. And, he had a, Hayder seemed like he had a pretty exciting time on the tough ATT versus Black Zillions. He fought, what was it, three times in 17 days. And then he was submitted by Kamaru Usman in the final. Usman, who's really improved like every fight. Every fight I've seen that kid, he's improved. But in that tough, he won his 3 fights in 17 days. He KO'd Nakahara. He had a decision over Portela and a decision over Luque. If I'm saying your names wrong, I'm sorry. Then again, if you can say my name right, and we call it even. Anyway, that was a good season, man. And it was he kind of came out of nowhere, and those guys just wanted to stand and bang with him. Usman was smart. Usman was like, he didn't want no part of that, even though Usman can bang and he can do everything, but he played that smart. He took him down, and he submitted Hayder, and he won. He won that. He was the next Ultimate Fighter, and that was like I said, that was a pretty good episode. If you have UFC Fight Pass, go on there and check that one out. That wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad at all. It was a little different from the normal format, so it was pretty good. So. Yeah, we got into that. So then they cut to Dhiego and James. They're kind of talking by the little fire pit. That's a really cool fire pit that they have, And, James is telling him, hey, man, it's a confidence thing, and he knows by how he's reacting to punches and where his feet is if he's going to be into that fight or not. You can't forget Diego's moved down from 185. He's probably one of the bigger guys there, like 6'2", 6'3", cutting at 170. And, he's really, he's well-rounded. He's got his own little ATT gym in Georgia. They show that segment. I believe that's actually one of the next segments. But, he's in there, and I like him in this fight. And I do like him in this fight because I I think Hassan's a little scared. I think he's a little scared of Dhiego by the whole reaction when they were getting on him about we're gonna do this fight. It seemed oh, I beat him everywhere and this and that, but it just did not seem like he was very confident in that. But they went with it, and the way Lima reacted to it is kind of what had me, because Lima was like, all right, no problem. It just seemed like it was one of those things where, hey, I submit him every day in practice, so you want to put me in there with him, that's fine. I didn't really want to fight him right away. He's my boy. If we had a fight a little later, a little more meaning to it, that's one thing. But, it's out there, and, Team Alpha Male teammates do not fight, put two teammates up against each other, and we'll see what happens. We'll see. Will it backfire? Will it not? You got to stay tuned to find out. Dana White, skip to Dana White talking about the confidence level and how he really liked Lima. The kid's fighting in his prime. He's in his prime right now. He had given him a couple fights after the loss to Eddie Gordon, which he was knocked out in that tough finale. And, then, he ended up, I think he ended up getting submitted or knocked out after that. Yeah. But, it was, it's very interesting when you see Dana White talk about someone like that. So, I kind of wonder how many of these guys might get another shot in the UFC even after this. So, it is getting late, so I'm going to try to get through this without yawning again and go through this and try to give you guys a good review. And definitely stay tuned tomorrow for more from the 203 Fight Network. By the way, hit that like button if you like the video, if you like the content, and if you want to get some notifications of when I put out videos. I'm not a crazy person that puts out 5-minute videos every day, so if you hit that notification bell, hit the subscription, hit that notification bell, I can put out a few videos a week. If you like that UFC content, when there's a UFC coming up, definitely going to give you a preview, going to give you a review. You're going to get both. Like I said, try to get those out at least the day before. I like to get the weigh-ins. I like to try to see the weigh-ins a little bit before I give my predictions and previews on the fights. And I put the review. I review the fight right after, no matter what time it is, and it gets pretty late here on the East Coast. So, but this is fun for me. This is what I do in my spare time, I guess. So let's get to the fight, because not much more happened on this episode. Some training back and forth, this and that. One interesting thing. And I didn't catch this on the original when I first watched last night. I caught this on Tough Talk. Faber didn't seem like he was too happy with that pick for them fighting, Dhiego fighting Hassan, for one. For two, he actually came out and said that Dhiego would have been like his first pick or one of his top picks, I believe is what he said, which is very interesting to me. Very interesting. Like I said, considering he was knocked out in his last fight, but Faber's got a good eye for talent, so it kind of makes you wonder how much Cody might have consulted with the big guy, beforehand. So maybe it isn't Team Faber. Maybe it is just Team Garbrandt. So we start the fight. Both the guys weigh in 171 and 170. 171 for Lima, 170 for Hassan. They both make weight. They do the stare down, all that fun stuff. So now let's get to the fight. All right. So, this starts out. Let me get to my notes on this because I watched it last night. So, yeah, Hassan started out real aggressive, kind of swinging hard. Dhiego's doing a lot of moving around, sets his feet. But immediately he gets a takedown pretty quick, passes guard. He's trying to get on there, puts in a body lock. He's got Hassan's back for most of the fight. Going for a choke. But I got to tell you, I don't know if it's because they're training partners and maybe he's used to having Dhiego on his back, so he knows, what type of motions he's going to go through to get the choke. You know what I mean? Dhiego didn't do much of softening him up, which you normally would see. Somebody takes his back. You're normally going to see someone trying to, punch over, give some elbows, do something to that extent to soften it up so he can get that neck, get it over there and get that choke in. He didn't do much of that, and I was kind of surprised. He started to do it maybe a little later, but, as this first takedown in this first round went on, Hayder fought off, did really well fighting off those chokes and fought up, got back up. I mean, he was on his back for a while. This was most of the round was basically being done. There's some kicks, some moving around, but most of it was takedown, got him back, pass guard, body lock, rolled over, and he's got his back, and he's just moving, and he's hitting him there with some shots, but a lot of times you see these guys go a little harder. So I don't know if there was a little bit of hesitation on Diego's part. If it's because of his training partner, he didn't want to hurt him. I don't know what it was, but it just looked like he was trying to submit him, but he didn't really look like he was, what you normally do. Obviously, to soften him up, you gotta, start landing some of those shots. He was just moving his arms and didn't really go very far. But after Hassan fights his way back up, really impressive that he even got out of that, because generally before he wouldn't have. He fought his way back up, and the round ended basically with these, with them circling. I give that round definitely to Dhiego, no doubt. I don't see how anybody can look at that round either way. Going into the second round, which is a little closer than the first. Right off the rip, Lima lands a hard kick, so you can tell right there that he's really starting to try to push that power out. So I was kind of impressed by that. Hassan actually defended a takedown. There was a little bit less of that action, but he did finally end up getting, I believe it was a single leg, or he ended up getting a takedown when Hassan was swinging for the fences, and they ended up tying up and hitting the ground. Once again, didn't stay there very long. Hassan fought his way back up. They kind of kept moving around. There was about 2 takedowns in this round, he actually did fight one of them off. Wasn't too crazy. It was a good fight, but wasn't too much in there banging. Hassan didn't really get a chance to land shots. You can kind of tell that Dhiego knew the angles that he was going to be throwing from, and he just was not there. Just wasn't there. And I gave that second round to Dhiego as well. The end of the fight, they're showing Cody yelling, round 3 rounds, and I was like, come on, really? Yeah, I guess that's just, what you're going to say. Decision comes in. Dhiego wins 2 rounds to none. He advances. Team Dillashaw 5-0. I think that's really the big story here. I just want to sit down for a minute. I'm kind of tired. I think that's the huge story. The huge story is that TJ is 5-0. He's 5-0 against his old teammates. He's 5-0 in this competition. As a coach, he's doing a fantastic job, man. He's hands-on. He's holding the pads. He's getting strategy going. He's doing what he, putting in really good matchups, which we're going to talk about in about 1 minute. The next fight. I really can't praise TJ Dillashaw enough with the job he's doing here as coach. They do show a little bit of a preview of the next episode 6, and you do not want to miss this one, because they'll give you a quick spoiler alert, and I'm not even talking about the fight, because you don't want to miss this one for 2 reasons. First reason is the fight. The next matchup is Team Dillashaw pick, and Team Dillashaw picks Ramsey Nijem versus Julian Lane. Let me bang, bro. And that was what came out of Ramsey Nijem's mouth after the stare down. Julian Lane, typical Mr. Lane, just getting all crazy eye on you. And anyway, trying to really, put that out there. And, he's a tough kid, man. I mean, he's willing to fight anyone. He's got the face tattoos, the head tattoo, whatever he's got. Good for him. That one should be good. But, we'll talk obviously more about that if I can get my stuff together, then I possibly can get a preview for this next one. But the big thing I thought is Justin Buchholz confronts Dwayne Ludwig, and at least the way they edited it in this, they kind of made it look like they were going at it, or they were about to go at it, or people being held back. And the one interesting thing from this episode 5 was no real drama in this one between the coaches. So they kind of kept it, away from there. Uriah Faber was a big part of this one. I didn't see him in the last, a few of the last couple episodes, very sparingly. But, soon to be newly minted Hall of Famer Uriah Faber. Congratulations. I would, if I was Cody, man, I would definitely try to get Uriah involved a little more. I know they got, and I like Cody, man, and he's brought a great coaching staff in there with Buchholz, and I believe the boxing coach is his uncle. He's brought in Faber, Danny Castillo, a couple, maybe another guy or so from Alpha Male. There's a bunch of Alpha Male guys there, which if we saw in the last one, where they had the little party where Misha Tate came in and Cody's girl and all that, and then everybody got all hammered, which your typical tough. They bring in alcohol and then it's like forget about it. But next week should be very interesting. Episode 6, Nijam versus Lane, and possibly Buchholz versus Ludwig. Woo-hoo. Seems like Justin's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder for a couple things, and you know what? He might as well. It might be a little warranted. He definitely wasn't getting a lot of respect. Some of the respect that he probably should have been getting as a coach. I have always appreciated, from a fan standpoint, what he was doing with Alpha Male, especially when he was doing the cornering, especially when he was still fighting. So that takes a lot when you're trying to manage your own fight career and have, help guys out as well, training, coaching, strategy, all that. So, my do-rag is off to him. I didn't really like the matchup that they made or the reasoning kind of behind it, but I don't really feel that's their fault. I feel they were misled by Hassan to make that matchup. And I don't know what he was thinking in a way, because it seemed like that's what he wanted to do, even though that's not what he said. That's what he wanted. I mean, why else would you say it's an easy fight? Like, why would you say, oh, it's an easy fight, I want to take that later? They're 0-4 at the time, and you're going to say, oh, it's an easy fight, but I don't want to do that right now? So it kind of worked out the way it worked out. Wow, we're going to get me in week 6. We're going into episode 6, and unless this would be if Julian Lane could beat Ramsey Nijam, which is totally possible considering Nijam's been knocked out a couple times, and Julian Lane is definitely going to try to throw heat, and anything could happen. But I don't see Nijam losing this fight, really. I just think he's going to come in with a better game plan and stick to his game plan. He's probably going to wrestle him down, pick him away, keep him away. He's got the length, so he's not that much bigger, but he does have a little bit more length, I believe, on him. And if he can get, I would say even maybe part of a strategy was take it into the second round and maybe try and let Lane, punch himself out or whatnot, and then, try and take him from there. But Cody Garbrandt, Team Garbrandt has a distinct possibility of going 0-6 and starting out 0-6 in this tournament. And that would mean there's only 2 more fights left to make. I believe each team has 8 guys, 16 fighters. So, that would be 8 fights. We'll see what happens. Still got Joe Stevenson, Justin Edwards. There's a lot of guys left, but I kind of like Joe Stevenson. And a side note, real quick before I get going, getting close to 40 minutes. I wanted to keep it under 40, or at least 40, 41, whatever. Anyway, we Hassan was wanted to fight Joe Stevenson, and I think that would not have been a freaking good idea, man. If you really think you came that far with your grappling, that's fine. Fight someone else. Fight a guy that he will submit you. You're going to come in swinging wide and heavy and wide like Hassan likes to do. You're not going to get very far against Joe Daddy, not in this. He took some time off. He let some things heal. He changed a lot in his life. And he's coming in off some win streaks. So he's not like he's coming in off losses or he hasn't fought in a while. And he seems like he's in a really good place. And I've met Joe before. I met him years ago. Back when I was UFC 106, maybe it was. Nice kid, man. Good guy. Very engaging. Willing to talk to you, talk to the fans. You know what I mean? They're just different. Some of the, at the time at least, some years back, a lot of these professional fighters, they were definitely pretty and really engaging. They would have a little bit of an interest in, kind of, hey, oh, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. How you been in the sport? You train this or that. You know what I'm saying? Unlike a lot of other professional athletes that, when you meet them or if you're like, hey, what's up? Oh, shit, can you get a picture? They don't even look at you, I remember being when I was a kid, I was probably 9, 10 years old, you go and get an autograph from professional athlete. There was only really one that I can remember from even when I was being a kid that was actually cool. And that was Bucky Dent. And it was the first autograph I ever got. I was 6 years old. I was a big Yankee fan, still a big Yankee fan, Bucky Dent, blah 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 blah. But that I've met so many football players, baseball players over the years. Either you run into them at somewhere or I don't go to too many of the autograph signings and whatnot where you gotta pay. I've done that before. Met a couple New York Giants and gotten some autographs for my father, who was a big New York Giant fan. I am as well. But most they don't even look up at you. What the hell is that, man? You know what I'm saying? At least be like, hey, what's up? Thanks for coming. You got my money. Is that all you care? I don't know. It's it is what it is. So most of these MMA fighters, UFC fighters, MMA fighters in general, they're fighters, but so, some of them are stand-up guys. I met a lot of good guys that are fighters. That's why I don't see me rooting against. I never root for anybody to get hurt. I never root for anybody to get knocked out. Whatever, if it happens, it happens. And those guys are in there to entertain us and make a living, and they got families and whatnot as well. So it's a lot of times it's tough for even to boo any fight, unless you're running around like Caleb Starnes against, Nate Quarry, that's a little different, even that's some Lyoto Machida had some of those run around times and stuff, but he ended up stopped being a track star and he started kind of getting in there and banging and doing putting on some great fights. So that is going to do it for the episode 5 Tough 25 review. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed that. Just a quick note just about the upcoming fight before I let you go. Ramsey Nizzam, Julian Lane, season 16. Ramsey Nizzam, a finalist in his tough. He has 9 fights in the UFC, and he's won most of them. So, like I said, I do like him in this fight, and we'll see how that plays out. But until tomorrow, please stay tuned to the channel. I will be getting out my exclusive Objective Perspective podcast, which would be episode 7. Check that out. I got them all on the channel. Check that out. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I'm going to be putting out content Hit that like button, hit that dislike button. Please comment. Leave some comments in there. Let me know that you like the do-rag, you don't like the shirt, you like the shirt, you like me, you don't like me. Either way, I don't care. But I would like to see a comment because then I could respond. But just keep it clean. I'm not looking to get any pissing matches with people. Let's just have some fun, man. Give me some predictions on some fights. Let me know what you think about Bisping and GSP. Let me know what you think about, Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Let's put it in there. Let's have some conversation. Let's get some MMA talk moving, man. Let's try and start a movement. But until tomorrow, like I said, I am Mark G. This is the 203 Fight Network, and I'm out.